Zach, let me tell you a story. I want you to imagine that you are an ancient human. Okay?
Done. Okay, so poop as I walk.
Sure,
That's my
sure.
case.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. There's no such thing as indoor plumbing.
No.
Mm-mm. You live somewhere in what is now Central Eurasia, the Levant region, modern day Israel, Palestine, that kind of area. Eventually, it's going to become the cradle of civilization, but this is 25,000 years ago. That's where we are. Anatomically, you're a modern human with all the same cognitive abilities that humans have nowadays. But those of us that live nowadays, we have the lessons of culture, society, of science. We are individually benefiting from a modern education. We stand on the shoulders of giants. But back then, you're part of the first generation of giants. You exist 10,000 years before the first civilizations, 10,000 years before the advent of agriculture, before any human will ever write a single word. But every night you gather around a large campfire with all of your friends and family and you tell stories. You tell the stories of your people, where you came from, people who came before you, which, as far as you know, stretches back until the beginning of time. You live a nomadic lifestyle, so you talk about where you came from and your journey, people you met along the way, goods you've traded, battles fought. The world is a mysterious and dangerous place. The land is filled with beasts that dwarf those that exist in modern times, and you live amongst them. But with all of that, you know you're not alone. Not only do you have your friends and family, there is also a completely different species that walks beside you and sits next to you by the fire. And as far as you know, they have also walked with your ancestors since the beginning of time. They help keep you safe from predators, they keep you company, they help you hunt. You reach down and you pet its large head and you say, "Good girl." I want to talk about dogs. I have been, this has been, I mean, when we first started talking about doing this podcast, one of the first ideas that popped up for me was dog genetics. So I knew that it wasn't going to take very long. But I want to talk about dogs and I want to talk specifically about dog genetics because I think it's a really interesting subject. So that's what we're going to
Hmm.
talk about today.
And you're saying DOGS, not DAWGS?
Yeah.
Because I could talk about my
Yeah.
dogs all day.
All day long. All day long.
All
Yeah.
day. Love my
Mhm.
dogs.
Love my dogs. Yeah, so I think also this is a dog friendly episode too. So I don't know if your dog is well behaved enough to sit with you, but if you want to bring your dog in here, we're dog sitting a new dog or fostering a new dog right now, so I might bring him in at some point too. He
Yeah.
is
My
super
dogs.
cute.
What kind of dog is it?
He's a mutt. He's some kind of like healer mix. But that's the best that they got. We know we have a picture of what both of his parents look like. They are also mutts, but some type of healer mix. And
Okay,
maybe a
I'm gonna
bunch of
look
other
that
stuff.
up.
Like a
This
blue
is
healer. Yeah.
this is the thing. Like dog breeds is a thing that for some reason my brain does not memorize. I cannot
Yeah.
learn dog breeds at all.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
when people be like, "What kind of breed is your dog?" Because they're both mutts.
Uh-huh.
Although my wife said when she got our littlest dog, they said she was a pure breed, and she was like, it was like a month later, and I was like, no, she's not. She like when she like grew into like normal dog form instead of being a puppy, she's
Uh-huh.
like, they lied. That's absolutely a lie. There's no way.
Yeah, that's like
Um,
when we adopted our old dog Piper. We adopted her, and they told us that she was a 6-month-old Corgi Border Collie mix, and then
mhm.
we adopted her, and we looked at her paperwork and realized that she was 2 years old, and she was the size of a 6-month-old puppy, and we were just like, oh, I don't think
Mhm.
she's getting any bigger. So we ended up with a small dog.
Yeah.
She
Which
was
no,
also
hey.
probably part Chihuahua. Yeah.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Uh, both of my dogs though this morning they are. This is the time of the morning they just are asleep near me.
Gotcha.
They
Yeah,
like
that's
to
perfect.
just. One of them is laying under the chair, and
Yeah.
then the other one is just on the hardwood.
Right.
That's their morning routine at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah, I was about to go grab the dog that we're fostering right now, but he's only 4 months old and he's never been inside a house before until like 3 days ago when we brought him home and he just peed on the floor like right before right before
Sure,
we
as you
started
would.
this.
Yeah,
Although I will say is the first time in 3 days that he's actually peed on the floor. He's pretty good for a 4-month old. But
that's good. I wish my dog was that good.
yeah, but yeah, so dog genetics. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So dog genetics is really a story of two different processes. And one of them, the first one is the process of domestication. how we went from wolves, ancient wolves, to dogs. This is an ancient story. It was a very long and drawn out, very gradual process. And then there's a different story of modern dog breeding, right? So it's a two-part story. Uh, the standard story for the last couple of decades is probably a pretty familiar one. Do you have kind of a general idea of like how dogs became dogs?
Um, so my very faint understanding is that dogs sort of moved closer to humans because they realized there might be like an easier source of getting food and stuff like that way.
Hmm.
My theory, like all of history, is that one brave dumb person saw a wolf and he's just like, I'm gonna be friends with it, and that's how we slowly domesticated animals. But I don't know. I don't know if that's any of that's true.
Yeah. That's pretty much the standard story, the way that it's been for the last couple of decades. That's pretty much it. So the idea is that somewhere around 20,000 years ago ish, there was a small number of wolves somewhere in Eurasia, right? So it's a big area. It's all of Europe and all of Asia. We weren't really sure exactly where, but somewhere in there at some point, humans and dogs, humans and wolves, sorry, came into close contact with each other. And just like you said, some population of wolves got to be really comfortable and familiar with humans by basically consuming leftovers and refuse, right? So they would just kind of pick up on like the scraps, and that they
Mm-hmm.
just slowly got a little bit more comfortable with humans. And there is some archaeological evidence for that. It's not completely untrue. That's kind of still somewhat the same idea, but the more modern understanding of it is a little bit more nuanced and a little bit more complicated. So the especially when you look at the genetics of dogs, there's a lot of evidence showing there's more and better evidence at the genetic level showing kind of where and how this happened. So when you look at the genetic evidence, it really suggests that it was kind of something like 20 to 40,000 years ago. So it's a wider time period, actually. So it could have been actually much more ancient than we realize it was. And it either could have been somewhere in the Middle East, kind of in that same region that I was talking about in the intro, and that's the Western population that they talk about in the literature, and then the other population that it could have been was somewhere in the Far East, so the Far East of Asia, Siberia and China, kind of that Mongolia, that kind of region, and there's evidence at the genetic level for both. So if you look at the genetic research that's occurred over the last 20-ish years or so, it kind of goes back and forth between being like, well, the majority of the evidence suggests a Western origin. No, now a majority of the evidence suggests an Eastern origin. And now it's kind of coalescing around like maybe both of them happened. And then there was a little bit of what we call admixture, where they were interbreeding with each other. So you kind of get maybe two independent origins where different populations of wolves, maybe not necessarily simultaneously, but independently, kind of get domesticated in both areas. But then because dogs go everywhere with humans once they are domesticated, then they just start interbreeding with each other, and it kind of muddies the water at the genetic level, and it's hard to really fully parse those. Dogs for that whole time were also actively interbreeding not only with each other in different dog populations, but also actively interbreeding with wolves as well, which also is the explanation for that really wide time period where it's like we started looking at it at the genetic level, and all of a sudden it kind of became less clear temporally when that happened. It could have been anywhere between 20 and 40,000 years ago. So probably what it was really, based on looking at all of the scientific evidence that's out there, to my eyes, what it looks like is that that's really indicating that this was a gradual process that kind of happened in multiple different locations, and it wasn't just like one single founding effect. It was just this gradual process that happened over a wide geographic area over a large temporal time period and involved lots and lots of individuals and lots of back and forth genetically between them. So the actual picture seems to be, just more complicated than the old standard picture, which is fine. It's not that the old standard picture was wrong; it just kind of lacked nuance.
You know
Um,
who'd hate all this interbreeding of dogs?
what's that?
Bob Bob Barker.
Bob
Was it
Barker. Yeah.
Bob Barker
Uh-huh.
who was
Bob
always
Barker,
telling you?
the
Yeah,
host of
okay. He
Prices
was,
Right. Yeah. Be sure to
yeah,
spay
he
and
was.
neuter your pets. Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh,
I'm just. That's all
yeah.
I'm thinking is that Bob Barker is probably listening to this on a in
He's
heaven.
probably not super
He's listening,
excited about that. He's
and he's
like,
like,
yeah,
I
we
can't
gotta get
believe
these dogs to stop breeding.
we could have stopped this thing early.
Yeah. I mean, he was a little bit onto something because dog overpopulation is definitely a thing. Actually, the dog that we're fostering right now, he just got neutered like the day before we picked him up, so he's been kind of recovering from that. So,
Yeah, he's been kind of bummed. He's been doing a lot
mm,
of staring out the window, being like, "What
right.
is my life now?"
Yeah,
Single
just
teardrop
sadly,
rolls down his
forlornly
face.
looking at the rain as it falls outside and just being like, what is the purpose of life now?
Yeah, he's not. He won't even open up his dog porn magazines because he doesn't have any interest anymore. It's sad.
Yep, it is sad. Yeah. So yeah, so that's kind of the ancient origins of it. And the process of domestication, both functionally for humans and at the genetic level, is really interesting. And I imagine we'll probably come back to that at some point because domestication uh, across all of the different animals that we have domesticated, plants too, we've domesticated all these different plants and animals and created kind of a more useful form of them for humans is a super interesting topic in the subject of science. So we'll probably come back around to that. But that's kind of the origin of the domestication process. But when you actually think about breeding at that time, it's really mostly functional. But it's all based on like function, right? So it's just we want these. We're basically just going to take these dogs that are good at a specific task that we want them to do, and we're going to take the dogs that are best at that task and breed them together.
Yeah, I will say. I mean that the breeding, between like skill sets you're trying to have, that makes a lot of sense because the Winter Olympics just happened, and like every Olympics they ran out of condoms. And I think
Right.
human beings have an innate ability to be like, we are all super athletes. We must pass down our seed
Yeah.
to the next
Yeah.
generation. So I'm gonna say that was an innate feeling and not just a bunch of horny athletes.
Yeah, that wasn't mismanagement by the event planners in Milan. That was organizers in Milan actively saying like we need more babies out of this particular crop of individuals.
These athletes are peak human and physicality. We want more of them.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that happening in our world now with Olympic athletes and with tech bros. So that's
Boo.
boo. Yeah. So that's it. That's it for this time. We
Yeah.
would you like to tell people where they can find you?
Yeah, follow me on social media. On all of them at ZHJOBE. Yeah, I don't have a lot of interesting stuff going on. I have a couple performances, but who knows when you'll listen to this. So just check out my social media to see if I'm performing.
Fair enough. Yeah, and likewise for me, you can find me at Myelin, the YouTube channel Myelin on YouTube, or by following this podcast. This podcast is available on all major podcast platforms now: Apple, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube. If you don't like that, then you can use link in the description to subscribe via RSS feed like I do. And I also have a website called evolio.org. And thank you for listening, and we will talk to you soon.
Bye, everybody.
See ya. Zach, let me tell you a story.